fallout continues after the President of the United States, in front of a bipartisan series of leaders, asked why the United States needs to take in people from what he called S-holes. I won't keep using the term gratuitously, referring to countries like Haiti and El Salvador and the continent of Africa. He also said he would prefer immigrants from places like Norway. Donald Trump was condemned as a racist even as he denied the statement. Others who were there confirmed it, but as yet another controversy engulfs this president. How does all that ricochet back and affect the shaky NAFTA renegotiation process going on? To find out that and other things, the Scrum has gathered today. Bob Fife, the Globe and Mail's Ottawa Bureau Chief, great to have you here and Happy New Year. Also, CTV's senior political commentator Craig Oliver is here, which is great to see you back. Laura Stone, also of the Globe and Mail, is here. And our special guest today, businessman, author, political commentator Conrad Black. Happy New Year, everybody.
Glad to be here.
The same.
Let's go. Let's go. Let's get going. Mr. Black, I got to talk to you first. You know Donald Trump. You've been on the record defending him. How damaging are these remarks, which frankly have been roundly condemned as racist?
Not at all. The fact is, if it reduces the reverence for political correctness, it is a good thing. Now, I personally think that if he actually said it, he could have chosen his words better. And what I think the underlying problem is not his own mannerisms. He's quite a polite person, and he's certainly not a racist. And the attempt to portray this as racism is nonsense. If he said it, he's referring to the fact that there are countries that tend to produce migrants to the United States that are not easily assimilable and don't add a great deal to the economy. But the issue, I think, is these Americans still think absolutely everybody from places like Norway want to emigrate to the U.S., and they don't. Most people in advanced countries don't want to immigrate, and they don't particularly want to immigrate to the United States. So the answer to his question is clear. But the actual use of that word, while regrettable in my opinion, is irrelevant, and no one will remember it.
The sad thing about this,
it's like all these little crises.
Sorry,
Craig.
The sad thing about this is that Mr. Black is right. There will be no political consequences at all for Trump. Because some 35 million Americans, and this is in America, those of us who lived there for years never knew, support everything he says. All his repugnant, xenophobic, racist remarks, they're there. They're saying good for him because he's justifying how I feel about the world, and I used to be embarrassed to say it.
Bob, what do you make of these remarks?
Well, look, first of all, I don't agree with Craig. I think the vast majority of Americans are embarrassed by a president who, frankly, is using racist language, despite what Mr. Black is saying. And the fact is that people from these poor countries come to Canada, they come to the United States, and they have all made great contributions, particularly their children. The parents may come here and they work low-wage jobs, but their kids end up as engineers and lawyers and professors.
The economic ladder.
They climb up the economic ladder, and what Trump is saying is we don't want people from Africa or from Haiti. We want people from white countries, and that clearly, to me, is racism.
Yeah, you can't paint all of these countries with one brush. But this is just adds to the sideshow element of this Trump presidency, that he's using this type of language, bringing dishonor and disrespect to the notion of immigration. You know, these people are looking for a better life. That's what the American dream is all about. And he's saying we're not welcoming these people from, as Bob says, predominantly black countries.
Conrad Black, look, I know how polarizing this language is, but here's a guy that's got the market is growing, job growth is there, the economy's kicked in. This appears to be another self-inflicted wound, and he's got a lot of them anyway. What's the purpose of this thing?
No, at that level, I agree with all of you. It was a stupid thing to say if he said it. But you're not correct, those of you who think that it shows that he's a racist. He's not a racist. All he was really saying, and it completely defeats me that a man of his intelligence can't say what he means in a way that isn't always controversial and require people like me to try and make him sound like something other than a racist moron. But all he really means is it would be better if the United States could attract more people who were easily assimilable. That's not a euphemism for white. I don't think he cares what anyone's skin color is. He
Well,
wants
I'll tell you,
immigration.
Conrad,
He's in
it takes
favor of
someone like
immigration.
you to actually make that clarification. I don't know why it has to go through the Conrad Black translation machine. Why can't we take the guy at his word? Bob, where does this go for
He's
for
a bit of a
NAFTA?
klutz in what he says, but not a racist.
Well, the klutzy issue and what he says matters with NAFTA. I want to bring this to Canada because we got to deal with this guy now.
Well, look. These comments are not going to affect the NAFTA negotiations, that's for sure. And we've actually, despite all the pessimism that we've been hearing from the United States and from the Trump White House that he might abrogate the NAFTA deal, the president in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week actually gave us some good news. He's saying he might be more flexible on that. And it looks to me like Republican congressional leaders and the business community led by Tom Donahue, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, have been able to have some impact on the president. And now that Steve Bannon has gone out of the White House, having some impact on him and telling him, you know, we can't just kill this deal. It's too important to the American economy. So at the end of the week, I was somewhat more optimistic about the chances of a NAFTA deal.
Craig, the dollar took a big hit because there's a lot of pessimism. Maybe it swung back to some odds. And look, you wait another day. We don't know what's going to happen here. What are we looking for on this thing?
Well, I hope Bob is right. And I also hope that the change in tone is correct, that we're saying no more Mr. Nice Country. And that the reference to the World Trade Organization certainly was part of that. That was a real tough escalation and a very aggressive one, and the message was sent to the Americans. But I hope Bob's right, and I hope Trump will quit keeping in the hangman's noose day after day NAFTA, but never pull the trap. When is he going to pull the trap? And I think soon somebody needs to say to him, quit saying this or do it.
Well, Trump is the master of mixed messages. He's going to keep doing this as long as it's in his favor. He's doing this, you know, either to distract, to show that he's in charge. I don't think there's too much of a plan going on here, and that's why I think Canada is right when they say we have to be prepared for anything, because no one can absolutely know for sure what Donald Trump is going to do.
Business does not like instability, Conrad Black. Where do you think Donald Trump's going on the NAFTA deal? He's got the Mexico in his sights, saying they're going to pay for the wall. That could sideswipe Canada. How do you negotiate this thing with the United States and Canada?
In the first place, I think he is just giving general guidelines to Robert Lighthizer, who's the trade representative who's in charge of these things. And I must particularly object to something Bob Fife said in his reference to Bannon, as if the departure of Bannon liberates Trump to be a puppet of someone else. That whole Bannon thing was a myth generated by Bannon. He served certain uses in the campaign and he's gone. Trump isn't anyone's puppet, but he isn't a control freak. His instructions to Lighthizer, as I understand it, are reduce the trade deficit with Mexico. That's the issue, and that's how Mexico pays for the wall. They reduce the trade deficit.
Well,
he has no great
unfortunately
complaint
for
with
you,
Canada, and
Mr.
I've said
Black,
that here before.
Unfortunately, your president that you like so much keeps putting false information out about Canada, saying that we have a trade deficit with the United States when we don't. And they've had people from Brian Mulroney on to our own prime minister have tried to sit down with him and say, these are U.S. figures. There is no trade deficit. He still believes that there is.
It's all negotiating tactics, Robert. You're well aware of that. I mean, come on. You didn't just come out of a bubble. That's how people negotiate.
Okay, I got to have 1 minute here for North Korea. Tuesday's going to be a very big meeting. The United States and Canada in Vancouver will be hosting a big meeting to try to broker some kind of peace on the very tense Korean Peninsula. Real quick, I'll start with you, Laura. What chance does this have?
Well, I mean, it's also spearheaded in part by Rex Tillerson, whose fate in the Trump administration is uncertain as well. I think Canada's play here is we want to be an intermediary role between North Korea and the United States. We want to be some sort of peace broker to play a role as much as possible. But in terms of what this meeting will actually accomplish, I think that is in doubt.
That meeting is slightly above irrelevant. The White House and Trump have the South Koreans on a very short leash. They don't want them to go beyond the Olympics. They don't want them to start making commitments that the Americans can't buy and can't live with. So all Canada can do is cheer them on, but really can't say, you've got to give up your nuclear weapons or start some kind of negotiation.
Without the Chinese, what good is it?
Well, there are two things. One is we send a unified message to the world that we are serious about enforcing the UN sanctions. Secondly, that they are going to look at measures, including maritime interdiction of ships that are bringing in contraband and fuel oil into Korea. And thirdly, it sends another message to Washington. It helps Rex Tillerson and Defense Secretary James Mattis deal with the hawks in the White House who were talking about war, if you're remembering that, saying, look, there is a diplomatic option here. Let's pursue the diplomatic option. So Canada is playing an important role in hosting this.
And we have a long history on the peninsula. Last word to you, Conrad Black, on this.
Unfortunately, I don't think Canada has any standing at all. I don't think any harm comes of it, but it has absolutely no leverage whatever in the Korean Peninsula. The only way we're going to get a satisfactory solution is the combination of Chinese intense economic pressure and the recognition by the North Korean regime that the United States will, if that first element fails, have recourse to a military option. And it could apply a military option, non-nuclear, in 1 minute and deal with it. It would be rough stuff, but they could do it, and they will do it.
All right, Conrad Black, I really appreciate you joining us. Thanks so much.